and friends. Before I start my presentation, I would like to know how many of you are agriculture students? Yeah. Okay, then I would like to know how many of you believe in economic threshold level based IPM? You don't believe in it? You have no faith in it? No, you should say something, yes or no. If you don't believe in ETL based IPM, what is that you believe in then? Now, you might have studied about ETL based IPM in your curriculum, isn't it? Sure? Okay, I think they're hesitant. They wanted to know what I'm going to say rather than give their mind. Okay, though this question may not be very relevant in Dan Foundation setting, I would like to know, you know the difference between manager and leader? Yes? You know the difference. So how many of you want to be leaders? Who said all? Now, how can you say on behalf of others? You can't say. So let us see. Those who want to be leaders, please raise your hands. You can't be hesitant to raise your hand if you want to be a leader. Okay, good. So everyone wants to be a leader. It is possible. That is what in the morning I think your chairman has said. Everyone can be a managing director. Everyone can also be a leader. Let us see whether in this setting, through conservation of environment, whether we will be able to achieve the sustainable development goals, and in the process you can bring change. What stands out in a leader is an agent of change. If you are able to bring change with the people with whom you are working, definitely you have achieved your goal of becoming a leader. The scale may vary. Initially it may be in a small scale, but over a period of time we do not know. You may end up as a national level leaders also. We do not know at this point of time. There is an opportunity for all of you. Okay, so now let us look at the presentation. So what is the need for environmental conservation? If you look at this, today all around we find pollution, whether it is water, air or soil. Climate change, all of you might have studied and heard. Global warming closely associated with that. Then large scale deforestation, all of you might have seen the evil consequences of deforestation. Increased carbon footprint through industrialization and large scale biodiversity loss. Natural disasters which have become very, very serious, and they do not spare developed countries also. If you've been watching the news, today it is Florida and Southern Carolina, they have been completely underwater. And then agriculture. I think all of you are concerned with agriculture. Am I right? As part of DAN, you are associated with agriculture activities. Here, there is pollution because of the agriculture activities, as well as other main concern is insecticide resistance, which is having a great role in impacting the yield levels for the farmers, which is they're not aware about it. And then we have urban solid and liquid waste, and the consequence of discharge of sewage into the water bodies, which is nothing but eutrophication, which can lead to even ecological succession from a water body to a terrestrial ecosystem. Next. So I will quickly go through these SDGs. In September 2015, world leaders, they have adopted this 2030 agenda for sustainable development, and they have identified 17 goals that cut across various disciplines, sectors, and institutional mandates. Next. I think all of you might have been already studied, aware of it. Some of these goals, 1, 2, 4, 6, then 14 and 15, some of them may be directly related where we can try to do something in achieving the sustainable development goals. Let us look at the preamble. Next. The world leaders, they are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production. For a moment, we'll forget about consumption. All of you are involved in production by interacting with the farmers, etc. How it is to be done? Sustainably managing natural resources and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present, most of us, and you, the future generations. You are also the future, and you also represent future of your future. So that is this is very important in that context. So next, what I'm going to speak, it addresses certain issues. One is it promotes climate resilience, It promotes judicious use of chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizers, promotes soil fertility and soil health. It promotes water conservation. It prevents health hazards to farmers, farm laborers, and consumers, reduces cost of production for the farmer, and increases the yields and income levels. And it protects the integrity of ecosystem. So now let us look at the need for ecosystem-centric sustainable agriculture. Unfortunately, once we have shifted away from the traditional way of doing agriculture in the 1960s, when there was a compelling need to go for green revolution, we did not realize the evil consequences of intensive agriculture practices. But today we know that because of the excessive use of agrochemicals, we are facing the problem of pollution, whether it is water, air, or soil. Next. In order to overcome this, what should we do? How can we bring change in the mindset of the farmers? One of the simple thing is biopriming. Biopriming is nothing but treating the seeds with biological agents instead of chemicals. Fortunately, at one point of time, chemical seed treatment was not there. That time, chemical pesticides were being used excessively in the field. But there was a realization about the evil consequences of excessive use of chemical pesticides, and they switched over to chemical seed treatment. Instead of that, biopriming is much better. So here, next, let the full slide come. Picture also, let the picture come. See, I am showing you a picture which I have taken from IRI website, International Rice Research Institute, where they are trying to project if you are treating the rice seeds with Trichoderma harzianum is the species which they have chosen. And if it is untreated, what is the difference? You yourself can see the difference in the growth. And that is a growth which is based on healthy growth. It is not a growth like a growth when you apply excessive urea or something like that. Next. Let the full slide come. So here, based on that input, we experimented in tobacco in Guntur and other places where tobacco is grown in limited pockets in the country. We found that if you are treating the nursery with Trichoderma viridi and Pseudomonas fluorescens, that is the result. Next. And studies have shown that Trichoderma, if you are using it in seed and nursery treatment, it increases yield in all crops. It also imparts greater resistance to disease and drought. Deeper root system will enable stronger stalks and increased tillering so that there is increased yield and better water use efficiency. How many of your farmers are using Trichoderma? Can you please raise your hands? They're all students or some of them are in the field already? Those in the field, can you please raise your hands? Those are already interacting with the farmers. Please don't hesitate. This is only an internal dialogue. As I said, I am part of the foundation one way or the other, though I am not visible to you on a day-to-day basis. How many of you are already interacting with the farmers? Please raise your hands. Leaders are never shy. If you are shy, that means you don't want to be a leader. Okay. So my question is to you people, whether your farmers are using Trichoderma and Pseudomonas fluorescens. Yes, no. Few. Okay, fine. So that means there is a scope for you to bring a change in the activities of the farmers who may be using chemical seed treatment or who may not be using Trichoderma and Pseudomonas in the nursery or in the field. And this Trichoderma is not a very expensive thing. And in fact, if time permits, I can also explain how even to make the farmers produce Trichoderma in their own farm level at a reduced cost. Okay, let us see. Trichoderma is one of the wonderful fungal microorganism which is a mycoparasite. It kills fungal diseases, though it itself is a fungus. Next. This is another fungal organism called mycorrhiza or vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza. Unfortunately, in our country, this is not in wide usage. This is actually a very, very powerful fungal organism. And some people, some scientists, they said, they form an internet below the soil. Before we thought we have discovered internet, Nature has already provided an internet below the soil. How? They connect the roots of one plant with another root and they form a huge network. What is the purpose? Whenever any plant is in stress, they release certain chemicals, and these chemicals are transported by these fungal organisms to the neighboring plant, alerting them that a disease has struck me. You be alert so that you can strengthen your own defense mechanisms in case if you are affected. The way all of us react if there is any disease in a community, we take measures. And in addition to that, this mycorrhiza, I showed you a small picture where if a root is having a mycorrhizal association, it can pick up nutrients from a much larger area. Whereas on the other side, where you find there is no mycorrhizal association, only the lateral roots will be the support base for the plant to pick up nutrients. And studies have shown that they will increase the absorption of water and nutrients multifold when compared with the roots which do not have a mycorrhizal association. You may ask me, sir, whether mycorrhizal association is there with all crops and all plants. 90% of the plants in the world, they have mycorrhizal association. And this association is several thousands of billions of years old. It is part of an evolutionary process where this has happened. Next slide. Again, I did some experiments when I was in Hyderabad, and you can see whenever we treated these seeds with mycorrhiza, the growth is very fast, especially the root system. Once the root system is very strong, the shoot automatically will grow fast. Next. Now, scientists have discovered that mycorrhiza, they produce a glycoprotein called glomalin, which contains 30 to 40% carbon. And mycorrhiza also helps in formation of soil aggregates, which adds structure to the soil and keep other stored soil carbon from escaping. So it improves the soil health. Unless the soil health is good, the plant cannot grow better and it will not give adequate yields. And then studies have shown that glomalin accounts for 27% of the carbon in the soil. And it is a major component of the soil organic matter. But all of you in your agricultural colleges, you might have studied humic acid is very important. But if you look at it, it only contributes 8% of the carbon. Whereas mycorrhizal association will ensure that there is nearly 27% of the soil carbon will be from mycorrhiza. And mycorrhiza also play a very important role in carbon sequestration. They act as a carbon sink below the soil. We always look at above the soil. But here is a fungal organism which can store carbon underneath the soil. Next. Nitrogen fixing bacteria. I think all of you might have been used advocating nitrogen fixing bacteria to the farmers. See, usually we do this for legume crops. But there are nitrogen fixing bacteria even for non-leguminous crops, by which you can reduce the consumption of chemical fertilizer by 25 to 30%. So I have told you about trichoderma, I have told you about mycorrhiza, I have told you about Pseudomonas fluorescens, and then now we talked about nitrogen fixing bacteria. These are all the soil microbial consortium. If you can use these and make the farmers adopt it in their fields, they can reduce their chemical fertilizer requirement or fertilizer requirement, let us first say fertilizer requirement, by nearly 25 to 30%, if not more. So number one, once you reduce that, you are able to increase the farmer income because you are reducing his cost of production. That is one point. Next. Earthworms. Today, when I was very young in the field, vermicomposting itself was a very big thing. Progressive farmers are supposed to have adopted vermicomposting. But we have to move away from that. What is the need for it? I will tell you. In a healthy field, nearly 25 lakh earthworms will be there in a field, in a healthy 1 acre agriculture land. If you are having that many earthworms, please look at the picture, how they form canal network below the surface. Now just close your eyes and look at 25 lakh earthworms forming similar kind of network under the soil. And if there is a rain, what will happen? I need some response. Water will go down. You are talking about drip irrigation by putting up a dripper on surface. Whereas here nature has given you a drip irrigation system which will take water up to 2 to 3 meters. And you take any crop, the root of any crop will not be more than 2 to 3 feet. Plus, will it stop there? It also provides the nutrients required for the plant through its excreta, through the pellets. Plus, any harmful organism is there in the soil, they consume on that. So, that is the reason why when any zoology student, if he opens his book on earthworms, the first sentence will be earthworm is farmer's friend. Unfortunately, neither the farmer is there nor the farmer is there, friend is there. This is what is happening. So, for that, what we have to do is, you people should educate the farmers to release unsieved vermicompost into the field. Today, what farmers are doing is, after the vermicomposting is over, the producers they sieve it so that the clitellum and the small earthworms they will be retained for further composting. So, the farmer is applying only sieved vermicompost, which is good. But the better thing will be to release unsieved vermicompost so that the earthworms also will multiply in the field. And vermiculture is not very difficult. It can be easily be done. I am sure, I think Vasi will organize some course for that for you people to see that you can train the farmers because they have all the inputs. All they need is the inoculum. Inoculum is slightly expensive at the farmer level. If we can ensure that the inoculum is given at a reasonable rate, they will be able to multiply it and then release it in the field so that they can have the advantage of earthworms, which they increase the porosity, they turn the soil so that the nutrient soil comes to the surface, and then other things. In fact, all of you may be surprised to know Charles Darwin is known for what? Charles Darwin is known for what? Huh? Theory of evolution. He has worked 30 years on earthworms and he brought a treatise on earthworms which many people will not know. He was so fascinated with the earthworms. Next. Now, what is the need for reduction of chemical fertilizers? I do not know how many kgs your farmers are using. Can anyone tell me? Vasi, did you tell them not to speak to me? I am having that feeling, Vasi. என்னம்மா யாருமே வீட்டில் பேச மாட்டீங்களா? மற்றவங்கள தானே பேச விட மாட்டீங்க நீங்க. ப்ளீஸ் டெல் மீ how many kgs your farmers are using? சார் நீங்கள் நல்லா பேசுனீங்க, நீங்களாவது சொல்லுங்களேன். எவ்வளோ யூஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க? ஒரு ஹெக்டேருக்கு எவ்வளோ கேஜி யூஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க? அதான் 2 பேக் ஆனது ஒரு பேக் எத்தனை கேஜி? 50, 100 kgs is using per acre. Per acre. Here, the national average is 150 kgs per hectare, which itself is a very high consumption, unnecessary consumption. Now, why do farmers use this fertilizer? You know, the moment you use this chemical fertilizer, there will be a wonderful growth. But what they don't know is, it is giving an open invitation to succulent pests. And then they panic. Immediately what they do? Huh? What pesticide? Chemical pesticide. Okay, he gave the answer. What is your name? Mohan. Mohanamma irukku unga answer, right? Okay. Now, what we have to do is, in order to make the plant healthy, that growth is not healthy growth. It's an unhealthy growth when you are introducing agrochemicals. Since it is attracting succulent pests, which in turn results a panic chemical pesticide spray and has its own evil consequences, we have to reduce it. How do we reduce it? Next. First of all, how many of your farmers are doing soil test? All of them? Sir, very silly questions you are asking, isn't it? All the farmers are doing soil test? No, I can't believe it. I am sure. See, the state has a policy and Dan also has a policy. You will definitely ask the farmers to go for a soil test. Don't try to give an answer to please me. Huh? I know a lot about Dan Foundation also. Now, the next question, whenever I address the agriculture graduates and agriculture extension functionaries in government, whether center or state, immediately they will say, sir, 100% of our farmers are testing the soil. Excellent. The next question is, how many of them are using that soil test report? There will be pin drop silence, because usually this result comes bit late, and after that crop is over, the farmer just keeps the soil test report in his cupboard, or he will forget about it. But what we are forgetting is, the soil test report is valid for about minimum 3 years. That means if they are doing 2 crops, 6 crops you can do it. Even if you miss one, there are 5 seasons where you can use the soil test report and apply your fertilizers, chemical or whatever. It's a separate issue, and you will know that your requirement is certainly not 150 kgs per hectare. That means you are making the farmer to reduce his expenditure, and by reducing his application of chemical fertilizers, he is preventing damage to the soil. He is not promoting unnecessary growth which attracts succulent pests. Okay, you got the point. Now, how do you, then the next thing is application of fertilizers based on soil test. I said application of tank silt. All of you are working with tanks. Dan means tanks. Inlet, outlet, Rajakalwai, etc. The tank silt is rich in nutrients. Actually, if you are applying the nutrients, the tank silt, for at least 2 crops, they may not be needing chemical fertilizers at all, because the silt has accumulated the nutrients over a period of several years. Okay? Then, in Villupuram, there is one person, it seems by name Susindran. He has developed a simple weeder to remove the weeds in paddy fields. See, even if you are adopting SRI, which I will come to a bit later, one of the major problem is removing the weeds. Though the Kono weeder was there, I think the laborers will have difficulty in their shoulders, because when they are pushing it, motorized weeders have come. But this person, it seems, has developed a very simple technique. I asked Agriculture Department to do a study. They made a preliminary study and found it to be very, very effective and useful. They are doing a full-scale test, and if it is successful, I think it can be done. I would suggest that anyone from Villupuram, Marakanam, Villupuram, yaru Kadalur, you know him? Is it effective? Leaf folder also. I agree. You are convinced with it? Why are you not telling your friends? You are a very, you see, you are of my age group almost. Very good, very good. What's your name? உங்க பேர் என்னங்க? பாருங்க, அவர் எவ்வளவு விவேகமா இருக்காரு. No, good. See, there is one thing which you should never hide. What is that? Knowledge. Knowledge, if you share, it will grow. If you hide it, it dies with the death of the person who is having that knowledge. This Susindran, I have not seen him. I just heard it. Then I talked to my Director of Agriculture, Mr. Annamalai, and then Anadurai, and then they were trying to do it. And I'm very happy that I think Mr. Vivekanandan has went one step ahead. So you people should try to adopt it. This will reduce. See, one of the biggest problem in SRI is weeding. So that is he has found a solution for that. Next. So use of biofertilizers, particularly mycorrhiza. I told you about the importance of mycorrhiza. For several years, people thought that mycorrhiza will not be there with paddy in a waterlogged situation. But it has been found that there is a glomus, there are a couple of species which are having association with paddy also, and it has been established, so you can try for that. Then use of organic manure. Nowadays, most of your farmers, I'm sure they will be doing it. Vermicompost and vermiculture. Don't stop with vermicompost. Government may stop, but Dan Foundation should not stop with vermicompost. Then neem cake. How many of your farmers are using neem cake? Vivekanandan? 1/3. So there's still scope for you to bring that change. Okay. See, neem cake has a double advantage. One is it acts as a biofertilizer, and it also acts as a biopesticide. Then use of plant growth promoting rhizobia, and once you do all these things, nitrogen requirement can be reduced to 60 kgs per hectare. So how much money you can save to the farmer? Is there potential or no? So can you do it? How many of you feel that you can do it? Please raise your hands. No? Okay. It appears that many of you, they are willing to do this, Vasi. I'm sure, I think next year, you will have an evaluation of the commitment and promises made in this 26th Foundation Day. And I will be online even if I'm not invited, because Venkatesan will send me the link, I'm sure, and I will see that whether this promise has been fulfilled or not. Next. So, water conservation in agriculture. No, go back. So, all of you agree there is a need for water conservation? I can't ask this question in Dan, because your entire philosophy is conserve water. Life revolves around water. In spite of it, there is still scope for conservation of water. How do we do it? Let us have a look at it. Next. See, SRI is a system developed in Madagascar by a scientist by name Henry Lolany. Okay, this is supposed to increase yields by about 20 to 50%. You are increasing your yields and also reducing the water by 25 to 50%. Why it is possible? Because there is an alternate spell of flooding and dry situation. And then there is a reduction in usage of seeds also. Now please tell me, how many of you are adopting SRI? Vivekananda, please look at me, not the other way. Mohan. See, again, whenever you are bringing change, there will be difficulties. A leader never gives up. That's the what is a great leader we have behind us. That's the reason why today we are here. A leader will never give up. If he's having a conviction, then he's committed to that cause. Okay? Please understand, throughout the country, though SRI, everyone says I'm adopting, at the best, they may be only using the spacing, wider spacing, but they are not using this alternate spells of flooding and dry condition. Why? There is a resistance from the farmers, because we are all grown up thinking that paddy grows only with flooding. All of us are forgetting that paddy is nothing but a grass. It's a grass. It is very robust. Grasses are very robust. So it has that ability. Scientists have found out. And look at the root system. Just look at the root system. All of you are studying biology, na? See, if that kind of a root system is there for one tiller, obviously it can survive. If it is wilting due to lack of water, will it become like that? You should use a common science sense to convince the farmer. What is my farmer's apprehension? Sir, தண்ணி பாய்ச்சலன்னு சொன்னா அது செடி கெட்டு போயிடும் சார்னு சொல்லுவான். Here is a case where the roots tuft is there when compared with the traditional flooded situation, and then more tillers are there, so they should be able to listen to you, experiment, and how to bring change over a period of time. If time permits, we will try to discuss about that. Next. Sustainable Sugarcane Initiative. This has been brought by ICRISAT and WWF together. You have sugarcane farmers also in your groups? But some. For them also, you should switch over to bud chip method, wider spacing, and avoiding flooding. Next. See, this is again a wonderful technique developed by ICRISAT, which again is not used. There are so many simple techniques. This doesn't cost you money. It is not a rocket science. You're not inventing a rocket. This is a situation where, in fact, myself, former chief secretary when he was finance secretary, and then agriculture secretary, Mr. Bedi, who is the commissioner corporation, Mr. Vijay Kumar, he was with CM's office. We all went to ICRISAT. Normally, what happens to clay soil during summer? How will it be? Will it be soft, hard, or very hard? Clay. Very hard. அடிச்சா என்ன ஆகும்? இல்லைங்களா? விழுந்துருவாங்க. We were shocked to see, in summer we went to Hyderabad, to ICRISAT, and they showed the field where this ridge and furrow method was adopted, and we took up a piece of clay, We could press it just like that. The moisture retention is going to that extent. Now, what is the other science behind this? Why are they doing ridges? In a ridge, water flows at a lower level. When it is flowing, it seeps and the root will get the water. Normally, where do we pour water? On the head. Do we eat like this? We eat like this. But when it comes to the plant, we try to pour water on the surface and think that we are doing irrigation. But the real irrigation is at the root zone irrigation. That I will come to it later. I was fortunate to develop a technique to grow trees. I hope Ujjwal Pradhan will be interested in after looking at it. So this is a method which you can use for most of the crops. By this you can save water. You're interested? I will not take a promise now. Don't worry. We will see about the other things. Next slide. See, leader. This man is a leader. Incidentally, though he is from Andhra Pradesh and I am from Andhra Pradesh, I never met him. He is not related to me. He is in a completely different district. Look at this person. He is trying to innovate. Innovation is key for change. What he did, probably he might have looked at SRI and SSI. He said, why not I space groundnut? He kept a space of 1 foot between each plant and he got 200 nuts for a particular variety. Scientists are also important, but innovation also is important. Look at these science-based innovations which the universities are doing and look at the field level innovations which you and I can implement, which farmers can innovate, right? You're impressed with this? Let's see. If you may not have groundnut in your territory, let us see. Next. Drip irrigation and sprinkler, I'm sure, I think all of you must be encouraging. Government also is funding in a very big way. And I was lucky to develop a simple technique. I always joke with the agriculture engineers that you people have failed to come out with this simple idea and I have come out. And we will discuss about this a bit later. Next. Need for reduction of chemical pesticides. Do you think that there is a need for reduction of chemical pesticides or no? I want a strong answer. They believe in chemical pesticides and they don't believe in chemical pesticides. Is that the case? Nothing wrong. See, just because I'm coming from NGT, there's no ban on saying that you like chemical pesticides. Maybe for good reasons. How many of you sincerely believe that chemical pesticides are essential? Very good. What is your name? Huh? Venkatesan. Venkatesan. Right. Why do you need chemical pesticides? Instant solution. For what? For? What is that? Farm based. What result do you want there? You want to kill the pest. Why do you want to kill the pest? To reduce the yield losses. Why do you want to reduce the yield losses? What question, sir? Increase the income of the farmers. Am I right? Very good. So let us see whether that is happening. There's nothing wrong in it. This is what the scientists who have introduced chemical pesticides, they came out with this idea. Let's see what's happening. Unfortunately, consequences of economic threshold level based IPM, which has become synonymous with chemical pesticides, one of the major problem is biological magnification. All of you are aware of it? Right. Next. Pest resurgence. Do you know what this pest resurgence is? When you are applying chemical pesticides, suddenly you find a pest which has been removed. After some time, it comes back in abundance. That is called pest resurgence. Why it happens, I will tell you a bit later. Then pest replacement. So when you are dealing with a particular pest in a particular crop, you think that now you have found a solution. But after some time, slowly another pest becomes dominant and that is called pest replacement or secondary pest. Insecticide resistance. In spite of the usage of chemical pesticides in abundance throughout the world, 600 insect species, they have developed resistance to insecticides and some of them to multiple insecticides. How it happens? Many people may think that by putting too much of chemical pesticide resistance will come. No. Resistance will come because whenever you are applying chemical pesticides, as our three young leaders, they felt they want quick results. They got quick results. 100 pairs, for example, are there in a particular acre chemical pesticide. 95 pairs have died. What is the result? Excellent, isn't it? Venkatesan, excellent result, dane? Where is Venkatesan? Excellent result. But unfortunately, what scientists did not realize is when you are applying chemical pesticides, all beneficial organisms, you call it as natural enemies or defenders, they all die. But that 5 pairs of insects which remain, why they remain? They have genes which resist the chemical insecticide or pesticide. They are not affected. Now, in the absence of these defenders or natural enemies, these 5 pairs, they start multiplying. Reproduction is geometric and not arithmetic. So, over a short period of some 3 to 4 5 seasons, all the insect pests, they will have the genes for resistance. Therefore, any amount of your chemical pesticide application will be of no use. The second thing is, once you are removing the defenders from the ecosystem, pest resurgence will take place because the leftover pests, they will start multiplying. All of us should remember the definition of an ecosystem in this context. I will just tell you, an ecosystem is a functionally independent unit in which there is an intricate and interdependent relationship among the constituents of an ecosystem. I will just repeat, it's a functionally independent unit. No, whatever you do is immaterial. Ecosystem is there. How? There is an intricate and interdependent relationship among all the constituents of an ecosystem. That means in every ecosystem, you are having pests, you are having defenders. There is always a harmony, there is always a balance. Because of that, your paddy ecosystem or a cotton ecosystem or some other ecosystem, they all survive. Even if there is a pest, immediately something will come. The moment pest attacks the plant, they release certain volatile chemicals into the atmosphere which will attract the natural enemies which are far away. It is a signal for them to come here that they are in stress, they are in a crisis. Please come and help us and help yourself with your food or a host for laying your eggs. This is what has happened. And another major problem when you are applying chemical pesticides is there is a threat to the pollinators. People may talk about the problem only for honeybees. Honeybees are one aspect of pollinators which are visible to our naked eye. For every honeybee, there are multiple numbers of parasitoids. How many of you heard about parasitoid? What is it? How it is different from parasite? It's a natural enemy. Fine. How? That is predator. Eating is predator. Parasitoid is it lays its eggs. You are right. See, the difference between a parasite and a parasitoid is a parasite believes in live and let live. A parasitoid says, I only alone have to live. I am not bothered about you. It will kill the host. And 99% of these parasitoids, they are all feeding on pollen and nectar. In the process, they also resort to cross-fertilization. So they pollinate the other plants. So therefore, what is visible to eye is getting affected. What is invisible also is getting affected. Next. The other thing is, when you are applying these chemical pesticides, the three youngsters should listen to this a bit carefully. There are some of these chemical pesticides called persistent organic pollutants, POPs. And they really pop from one place to the other, just like a grasshopper. And studies have shown that chemical pesticides which have been applied below the equator, they landed in the poles, where there is no agriculture also. How? They are all volatile in nature. Whenever their temperatures increase, they just raise into the atmosphere and carried by the winds. When they reach a place which is lesser temperature, they settle there. In that place, when summer comes, they again migrate. So they keep on jumping like a grasshopper. So therefore, it is called as a grasshopper effect. Then, next slide. ETL limitations. The economic threshold level based IPM, click, 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 click. They do not take into account plant health and plant compensation ability. And they do not consider the natural enemies which I have already talked about. How many of you are aware about plant compensation? Are you aware about plant compensation? See, plant compensation is the ability of certain crops to withstand attack by pests without any loss to the yield levels during a particular phase of its life cycle. Paddy, all of you must be interacting with paddy farmers. After they transplant into the field, first 40 days, even if there is a pest attack, there will be side tillering and there will be no yield loss. Unfortunately, farmers will panic looking at the pests. They do not know about the plant compensation ability. Not only they, many scientists also, unfortunately, in our curriculum, this plant compensation ability has not been talked much. That's what I feel based on my experience with during a number of lectures. So this is not considered in ETL based IPM. Next. Next, click. See, no, go back. We are talking about export of grains, agriculture produce. You know, whatever is exported from this country, there is a limitation on the residue levels of the pesticides. There is something called MRLs, maximum residue levels. If you exceed that, the country which is importing you will just throw it back to you. Not even a pie is paid. You have to bring it back at your own cost. You can't dump it in their ocean. No problem, sir. We are only exporting. But what are we doing for our own domestic consumption? We are not applying that standards strictly here. Suppose if, just like in the case of noodles, what happened to noodles some time back? சார் நீங்கள் நல்ல மெஸ் வச்சுருக்கீங்க போல இருக்கு. அவங்க யாருமே சமையல் அப்பப்போ கூட பண்ணுறது இல்லை. நூடுல்ஸ்க்கு என்ன ஆயிடுச்சு? பேன். என்ன சொன்னால் என்ன ப்ராப்ளம் வருமோ சொல்லி யோசனை. Ban. Why? There are certain residues which are not supposed to be there. Now suppose Government of India says we will apply the same yardstick of MRLs for domestic consumption as well as for export. What will happen to your produce? It will be fit or not fit. It will be unfit for human consumption. So there is no, even if we presume that you are right in having some additional yields, it's of no use. But unfortunately, studies in US and elsewhere, they have shown there is no much difference between the yield levels in a field where chemical pesticides are used and a field where there is no chemical pesticide application. The reasons are, I already mentioned, resurgence, replacement, etc., and then dying of natural enemies, imbalance in the ecosystem, all these things. So much so that the scientists have said, if you are relying on chemical pesticides, farmers are spending money only to lose money. What are they doing? They are spending money only to lose money because none of these chemical pesticides will come cheap. They're very expensive. Neem cake is very cheap, so you are not interested. Trichoderma is cheap, you are not interested. Chemical pesticide very expensive. Quick result. I would like to have a quick shot. So ultimately what happens? You will fall down. And it is not sustainable over a period of time. Okay, having said this, always to complain or criticize is the easiest thing. You have to come out with a solution. What is the solution? Let us have a look at it. Next. See, in Indonesia, புகையான் என்ன தெரியுமா உங்களுக்கு? புகையான், BPH. BPH was a major problem in 70s, 80s. Then President Sugarto, what he did is, he banned chemical pesticide. 57 organophosphate chemical pesticides have been banned, and he has introduced a concept called farmer field schools and ISA based IPM. What does that mean? When you go to the field, the farmer is told that along with the pests, there are other insects which are farmers' friends. In fact, once when I was in Hyderabad, a press person, he took an interview from me, and next day he gave a beautiful caption. I was also stunned. In Telugu he said, Mitra Purugulu Raitu Sainyam. Sainyam, you understand? What is it? Army. They are the farmers' army. But what we are making the farmers do? Kill the army and allow the enemy to grow. So this is what we should try to understand. And there is a simple thumb rule which says for in a given area, when you make the survey, for every two pests you identify, if there is one defender, you don't need to take any managerial decision. So 2:1. That means your defender will take care of your need of controlling these pests. Okay. So now, next, a new concept was brought by some Australian scientists by name Jeff Gurr and a team of his scientists. They said ecological engineering for pest management. What is this? It is a philosophy of using habitat manipulation to increase biological control through cultural techniques. So they are using cultural techniques to effect habitat manipulation and enhance biological control. Right? How is it done? Is it difficult? Let us see the next slide. Is it difficult? What did they do? What they have recommended is, all along the field boundary, put flowering plants. Once you have the flowering plants, your parasitoids will come. Even predators also will come. And unlike us, the parasitoids and the predators, after taking a meal and taking some rest, as a thanksgiving to the field which has provided them the food, they go into the field, search for the pests and control them. But we are not doing that to our farmer who is giving us food. That's an unfortunate thing. Next. Click. This is what they have done. By doing this, next slide, you will find so many variety of these beneficial insects. This we have clicked photos in Hyderabad in our poor soil. In that we tried this experiment of ecological engineering for pest management. On a single day we have clicked so much of diversity of beneficial insects. Next. On a single day in January 2014, we found the diversity of spiders in that field to be so much. You see, everything is different. And spiders are supposed to be one of the most powerful predators in the world. They feed on huge quantity of insects. And these spiders, there are different layers in the ecosystem. Some will be at the top of the plant, some will be at the middle of the plant, some at the bottom, and some on the soil. All are different spiders. Next. In Malaysia, see, the previous one is in Hyderabad. Now I am taking you to Malaysia. In Malaysia, when they did this ecological engineering for pest management, what are you seeing there? Spider web. Can a pest go inside? Dare to go inside? It can't. Next. So, and then in the soil, these are all random thoughts of cross learning, which I thought it will be useful for you. See, another major problem for groundnut and then sugarcane is root grub. And even in coconut, you have rhinoceros beetle, the grub of which will be growing in the cow dung. These are all major problems. Usually you apply chemicals which is of no use. Instead of that, there is a nematode which is specific to killing insects. That is the reason why it is called as entomopathogenic nematodes. Including for rhinoceros beetle, there is Heterorhabditis indica is one species which will control that rhinoceros beetle. Next. There is another, you see, in Africa, now let us go to Africa. In Africa, what happened is, farmers were having difficulty in raising maize. Two problems they had. One is stem borer, the other one is triga weed, which is attacking to the roots. They tried n number of chemicals. Unfortunately, they did not find a solution. Then they realized that there is a technique called push-pull strategy. Deterrent diversion, technically called, which was introduced earlier in Australia. What they did is, all along the maize field, they put Napier grass. And in between the maize, they put Desmodium to grow. Now, the Desmodium plant was emitting certain chemicals which was driving this stem borer away. Napier grass was releasing certain chemicals which was attracting the stem borer. The moment the stem borer attacks the Napier grass, it secretes a small viscous substance around the egg and it doesn't allow it to grow. It's gone. And in addition to Desmodium, what it was releasing certain chemicals through its roots which was preventing striga from attaching to the roots. So therefore, there is a suicidal germination. So the farmers are so happy that just by following this push-pull strategy, they could control both the pests. They had increased yields. They had additional yields in the form of Napier grass and then desmodium, which is used as a fodder. And desmodium being a legume, it was enriching the soil by fixing nitrogen. Next. Next. See, for fruit flies, I think I'm sure most of you may be using light traps. There is a simple technique which was developed by Horticulture University, Bangalore. Next slide. It's a low cost, just a used bottle. You have to create some windows and then put your lure so that the next slide, the fruit flies will go and get trapped. We found that this is more effective than the traps available in the market, and this is no cost. Whereas that is cost, each trap will cost 300 to 400 rupees, and per 1 acre they have to put about 6 traps in 1 acre. So everything goes a cost for the farmer. Next. Sir, you may be saying, sir, you have talked a lot of theory. What is this theory? Is there any significant case study where there is a solid foundation for us to believe what you have said? In Vietnam, they adopted in one particular city. Please remember, an initiative can always start very small. But once there is a success, there will be too many takers, too many claims for being a godfather, and then it will spread throughout the country. In a place called Kanto City, they relied on simple strategy. 3 reductions and 3 gains. What are the 3 reductions? Seeds, reduce the seeds. The farmers were using large quantity of seeds, reduce it. Reduce the fertilizer amount, then reduce the pesticide frequency. And tap plant compensation ability. First 40 days, vegetative phase, the scientists and the extension functionaries convince the farmers not to use chemical pesticides, explaining them about the compensation ability. At the end of it, they got net farm profit, farmers' health, and soil quality. And when this was being experimented, Thailand was the leader in rice export. But some scientists and economists, they studied this and they said by 2020, Vietnam will overtake Thailand. This was done somewhere in 2003-4. But by 2010 itself, Vietnam has overtaken Thailand for the simple reason their MRLs are within the norms. Once you are reducing your usage of chemical pesticide, there is no residue. And it's a healthy crop. This is what has happened in 3 reduction, 3 gains. So to sum up, reduction of chemical pesticides, decrease in use of nitrogenous fertilizers. Okay, you do it. Will you be able to do it? Advocate the farmers not to reduce the chemical fertilizers, can you say? I am tired. Yes? Okay. Adoption of ASA-based IPM? சில பேர் என்ன நினைப்பாங்கன்னா, சார் செயல் திறமை இல்லை, இது பேச்சு திறமை இல்லை சார், எங்களுக்கு செயல் திறமை அதிகம், அதனால தான் நாங்கள் பேச மாட்டேங்கிறோம்னு சொல்லலாம். அதுவும் பார்ப்போம். As I said, next year I'll come. Vasi, I will tell me in advance, I'll block my date. So, usage of lures, pheromones and light traps. See, your generation is a very lucky generation. When we were in the field, light traps were linked only to the electric pole. And that light trap, if you switch it on at 6 o'clock in the evening, it will have to be switched off next day morning, manually going there. But today you are having timer-based solar light traps. You are free from the EB department. What is the need for light trap? All of you as a youngster might have remembered, whenever there is a rain, when you lit a lamp, insects automatically will come. That is the nature of insects. All insects, pest or beneficial, they are attracted to light. So that is taken advantage, and you are using these light traps. Now, what is the need for timers? Nature is very peculiar. When the sun sets, initially between 6 o'clock to 10 p.m., all pests will come to the field. Then, after 11:30, natural enemies will come. You don't want to kill your natural enemies, so you will trigger off the alarm in such a manner, timer, 6 o'clock it will start, and 10:30 it will switch off, so that you are only trapping the pests. So this is something which is very, very useful, which you people should try to take advantage. Then adoption of ecological engineering for pest management to enhance natural enemies. How many of you will use this flowering plants along the field boundary? Please raise your hands. For this, I think I want you people to raise your hands. Sir, amma, idukku kuda viruppam illa? flowers திரும்பி யார் யூஸ் பண்ண போறாங்க, பயன்படுத்த போறாங்க? All of you will love flowers, na? I'll tell you, Vasi, when I brought some women farmers to our field in Hyderabad, they were not moving from that field. Sorry, இது ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கு. In Telugu they were explaining. They are attracted toward the flowers. And once they knew that it is going to have a benefit for the crop, they got fascinated. So this is simple. Someone said something? Okay. What are they're working with whom? Their students? Agriculture. No, but several people raise their hand for agriculture. Sir, ஒரு அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் கிராஜுவேட்டாக இருந்து கம்யூனிட்டி பேஸ்ட் ப்ரோக்ராம் இருந்துட்டு ஆய்கட் ஏரியாவில் எஸ்ஆர்ஐ பண்ணலை, லைட் ட்ராப் பண்ணலன்னு நான் எப்படி ஏற்றுக்கிறது? யூ ஹாவ் டு டூ இட். Agriculture, sir, I am only a biology student. I am a PhD in zoology. I am not an agriculture graduate. But having had this knowledge, exposure, when I was Director General NIPHM, I have been making it a point repeatedly. This is the second or third time I am telling Vasi in one of their lectures. So anyway, so please, see, never try to be tunnel vision. In development, you have to be converging as many possibilities are possible, whether it is your direct duty or not. Vasi is not going to say, don't tell the farmer to adopt SRI. Will he say that? He is not going to stop your salary for that. So adoption of ecological engineering for Sholavandan. How many of you are coming from this Sholavandan? How many any of you from that? That's one of the most beautiful part of present Madurai, where you have paddy fields, greenery, then yellow anapiragalla. And if you are having these flowering plants, imagine how beautiful that entire area will become. Then tap plant compensation ability, as I already told about, this 3 reduction and 3 gains in Cantho city of Vietnam. Next. Now, time is 5:16. There's one option. Venkatesan repeatedly told me, sir, don't go beyond 30 minutes. Should I stop or should I continue? Continue? Amma, adhikam badal varla. Okay. Since majority, you did not say anything like in an assembly, whoever says yes, that's passed by the speaker. So I take that role and I'll continue. Next slide. Next, we'll just simply say. See, this is a simple technique which I have developed to grow trees faster with less water. Next, look at the slide. அதை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க, அந்த படம் இருக்குல்ல, அதில் கொஞ்சம் ஒரு 2 minutes போடுங்க, நான் சொல்கிற வரைக்கும் பண்ணி அப்போ ஸ்டாப் பண்ணலாம். Then we can go back to the PPT. In the meantime, I can take some water. Varla? Thank you, Gunnar. This minimize panano. Probably you have to minimize this and then do it. Okay, or you can go to the next slide. I will explain to them. I think they will be also restless and because everyone has to go back home. That could be also the reason why everyone is eager to get the lecture closed. Okay, see, I devised a very simple system where when you are planting a sapling, you have to create a sand column. In an open pit, you can't create a sand column, isn't it? So for that, what I did is, took the help of PVC pipes. So while planting, you will keep PVC pipes either 1, 2 or 4, depending upon the need and your ability to do it. And then plant the sapling like any other sapling. Then press the soil. Compaction is also done. Now in this particular PVC pipe, what you will do is, for a half a foot, you will put manure. Ideally, vermicompost. Sieved, that's what it will be available. And on top of it, you need to put river sand. River sand meaning even from a Odai, stream, anything. Sand. Basically, it should not be sea sand. It should not be normal soil. So once you fill it up to the top level, now you can remove the PVC pipe. And the same PVC pipe can be used in the other pits. Now what happens? Once you pour the water, the moment it touches the sand, what will happen? Agriculture engineers are also here. What will happen? Huh? It passes inside. Sir, you are a agriculture engineer. Okay. Okay. So it just goes down. The water is sucked up to 2 feet. Now, will it keep quiet? After it becomes saturated, the sand column, after it becomes saturated, it releases water laterally. And when you are planting a sapling, you are providing a lot of nutrients in addition to the nutrient in the sand column, underneath the sand column. So now, in the presence of these nutrients and the moisture level, this is what we found. Tamarind, I am sure Ujjwal Pradhan will know, tamarind is a very, very slow grower, very slow growing tree species. But within a matter of 2 years and 3 months, we found the difference to be 5 feet and 3 inches. Next. This is mango. In 2 years, the difference was about 3 feet and 7 inches. In addition to the height and the biomass which you are able to see, the girth of this stem is also big. And surprisingly, we found that even at the individual leaf level, it is much wider and bigger. Next. So you may be interested in farmers who are growing cucumbers, gouds, ridge gourd, whatever, all types of creepers and climbers they will do, even watermelon. We experimented this in Tiruvarur. What we have done is, the control is a drip irrigation system in a field. The farmer was using drip irrigation for these creepers and climbers. In the same farm in another plot, he was using only the method suggested by me. The farmers used to call it as popularly as CRA technique, because I was CRA. When I introduced this method, I was Commissioner Revenue Administration, so they call it as CRA. What they did, in drip irrigation plot, they were irrigating once in 5 days. In the plot where CRA method was adopted, they were irrigating once in 9 days. So there was a gap. Here, every once in 5 days, and the other one is once in 9 days. In spite of it, they got increased yield levels. In watermelon, the increase was about 60%. In other things, from 40 to 55% we found. So is there any cost to it? There is no cost to it. Is it conserving the environment or destroying the environment? By your additional yield, there is a biomass also, additional biomass. If there is an additional biomass, there is an increased carbon sequestration. And as I said, we found that individual leaf level also, there is an increase in the surface area. So there is more carbon that has been sequestered. And is it addressing your SDG goal? Yes, the farmer is getting more income. And whenever you are using this method, you must be understanding that you are reducing the consumption of water, by which you are reducing fossil fuel consumption, because all the power comes only from the TNEB. Bulk of it is only thermal power. Drip irrigation definitely saves a lot of water, but this saves much more. Next slide. In fact, I should thank Mr. Shanmugam for that. He was finance secretary. I actually, at one time, I thought I will position it as a substitute for drip irrigation. About Satya, don't do that. There may be some big farmers who may be having labor problem. So why don't you think of some other alternative? So then I said, why can't we blend it? Can you see the picture here? On one side, you are having exclusively drip irrigation. On the other side, while planting, they created a sand column the way I suggested, and the dripper was kept on top of that. And you can see the difference in growth. Next. This can be used even during droughts. In fact, in Coimbatore and Tirupur in 2017, when most of the coconut trees were wilting, what we did is we took an auger. The PVC pipes have been kept there only for an indication. Because once you are doing 1.5 feet away from the main trunk, when you drill a hole, you don't need a PVC pipe, because it's already compacted soil and the hole will be visible clearly. So we put manure and then the sand. Farmers, they had 30% water saving. The bud shedding was stopped and they could protect their trees. So making existing trees continue to survive is much more valuable than growing a young sapling. Okay? Right. Next. So let us quickly look at some strategies for drought. Let us go through quickly. So there are some cross learnings which all of you should try to do it. First of all, I have an appeal to Vasimalai. See, this has been my appeal to many people right from my sub-collector days. Now I have already retired. Now I become expert member in NGT. Let me see where it stops. But I will continue to make these appeals, especially to NGOs. I am available. Now, later also. See, one of the worst and most inefficient irrigation is surface irrigation. That is the worst and inefficient system is surface irrigation. because the farmer is forced to supply water to the plant when water is available. He cannot give the water when the plant requires the water. He can only give when water is available, because the head rich farmers, they will gobble up the water, and by the time the water comes to the tail end farmer, God only knows when it comes. So even the head rich farmers, in their greed, they try to block water. So in fact, in Madurai, in Dharmapuri district, we did some experiments, and some farmers on their own, they did. Simple thing they did. They shut the sluices. They just shut the sluices and converted the MI tank into a water storage structure. And all the farmers in the I-cut area, they developed a dug well. And today, fortunately, you are having solar-based pump sets. You don't need to power connection from the EB department. And once you are having control of the water, farmer will be very intelligent to use that water sparingly or depending on the need, so that he can go for one more crop. And once you are having this water for longer period, Vasi, I am sure, I think your farmers must be doing fisheries also in the pond. Are you using fingerlings or yearlings? See, yearlings is a new concept which I forgot to mention in the slide. Yearlings is a new concept which has been developed in Andhra Pradesh, where they raise the fingerlings for 1 year in the nursery, and then they release it, so that in 3 months they come to table size. Whereas here farmers release as a fingerling, unless the water is there for 4 to 6 months, it will not grow to a reasonable size. Next. 1 minute. Oh, go back, please go back, sorry. Community wells in tail end area. Farmers in the tail end areas are always very depressed. They are the worst affected. So I have been suggesting that in that area, collectively form a community well or a bore well, so that difficulties will be there in managing the water resources. But that is the reason why all of you are here. That is why Dan Foundation is there. And then the tail end farmers can tell the upper reach farmers, head reach farmers, to say, go to hell. We have our own water. We are free from you. Then farm ponds. I'm sure, I think you are already doing it. Now I think Government of India has again introduced this million wells kind of a scheme, where their focus is on dug wells also. Bangru in Gujarat, I think some people, they have developed this. Vasi, I think it is worth having it. It could be useful for you in Ramanathapuram and some other places where water stagnation is quite common. So during rainy season. Then recharge shafts in tanks. And then Miyawaki method. Miyawaki method, how many of you are aware? Okay, some of you, at least some of you. Satyagopal method, no one. Miyawaki is a Japanese botanist. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. He developed a simple technique saying that mimic a forest. There is no need for wider spacing. Closely do it. So urban forestry is picked up. Our people are adding wet waste so that more nutrients are there. They are also providing drip irrigation so that quick growth is there. We did some experiment where we blended Miyawaki with my method. And there also we found the results to be much better than simply Miyawaki method. Next. See, this again is normal thing. I think probably in your watershed development, you will be doing all these recharge structures. Next. Another thing, Vasi, when I was CRA, we have done throughout the state is all defunct bore wells in the state. In public places, we have converted into recharge structures. During the last leg of my CRA tenure, I asked the collectors to focus on converting dug wells and bore wells which are defunct in farmer fields to be converted as recharge structures. Especially small and marginal farmers and those belonging to the weaker section, government funding will be available. So this, I think, they can take advantage so that the farmers will have sufficient water. Next. Abandoned quarries. See, this we have done at the state level for drinking water purposes. But I was telling the collectors also those days, if it is not fit for consumption, at least for irrigation purposes, it can be tried, so that by making necessary protective measures to prevent people from falling into it. Next. In Theni, we did an experiment, Vase. I'm sure, I think you might have heard about it. See, normally watershed structures are put in the upper reaches. That is scientifically to be done. But this water from the upper reaches of the watershed, it comes through the villages, especially through the agricultural fields. So what we did is, we did a series of check dam in these agriculture fields. Initially, the department was hesitant because there can be flash floods. For that, what I suggested is, the first check dam will be at a very low level. So the water will overflow. The structural stability will be there. So slowly we increase the height, and it is in the midst of agriculture fields. And the moment rain came, the wells were full of water, and people who have migrated to Munnar and then Coimbatore, they came back to Theni, and even today they are cultivating it. And then wherever, if some of you are interested in, when you go to your field, if you find some two earthen mounds or rocky structures very close to each other, please bring it to the notice of Vasimale and Venkatesan. They will talk to the concerned collector just to put a weir structure so that you can impound water, which we have done in Kombai and couple of other places. Rooftop rainwater storage is another thing. See, all of us are doing rainwater recharge structures we are doing, but the water you can push into the groundwater will be much less. Today there is a concept where all the rooftop water you can dive it into a sump down below, and inside that sump you can have a recharge shaft where after a particular level water will get into that shaft and recharge the groundwater, and the water in the sump can be used for all other purposes. And in Chennai, one organization, they used it for almost for about 6 months during 2017 when there was a drought. Next. The scarce water resources can be used for by other things also. For example, azola. Azola, when you try to grow, which is very simple to grow, farmers, they can grow in a small tubs kinds of things also. It increases yield of milk by 1 liter per day. And this actually, it has a symbiotic relationship with the cyanobacterium, which will also fix nitrogen. And this can also be used as a biofertilizer. In fact, during 2017, when livestock farmers were facing drought, we popularized this, and then they benefited a lot. Next. Hydroponically grown fodder. This again is a very simple technique. See, veterinary university, they have developed a commercial based thing where enterprising youngsters, they can go for a air conditioned facility where they can grow it. But I always believe in what farmer can do at his farm level. Even an ordinary tray which we use in government offices, you can try to use it. You can just train the farmers, take certain precautions, and this will be increasing the health of the animals besides increasing the yield levels. Next. I only wish Vasi is here, but I think Venkatesan, please remember, is a cross learning. The way Dan is known for your Kalangium and then tank restoration, in especially cascading tanks. In Vellore, we did a experiment, government in collaboration with the Art of Living. There was an effort to restore entire Naganadi river. So what they have done here is, I'll show you the next slide. In the entire river, next. In the river stream, first they built a boulder dam. It's not a check dam, no cement used, it's just a boulder dam. And downstream of that, they put ring wells and then put the filtering mechanism. So this has been done in a series. The entire river, at a regular intervals, they have done this. And today, Naganadi river has been flowing continuously for about 365 days is the claim that has been made by Art of Living, and people are also saying that. Even if it is not 365 days, you will be recharging the groundwater significantly, and all the farmers on either side of this river, they will be immensely benefited. But I have been telling them, this is only the beginning. What else needs to be done in a watershed program is, you need to treat this entire watershed with vegetation. Unless there is a vegetative treatment, the structural treatment of a watershed will not give you the ultimate long-standing sustainable results. So next slide. So this you can try to see how they have done. It will give you some idea. Anyway, I think Vasi, I will try to talk to him again so that this will be done. Another few slides, not much. Next. You have seen my CRA technique. How many of you are interested? Let me see. You are all very tough nuts to crack. Okay. In case if you people are interested in the simple technique which I have shown to grow trees faster with less water, which increases yields also, I have shown you that also. Please focus on drumstick, papaya, and any climber which is a legume. Once you do this in your kitchen program, you talked about anemia. Some young girls, they came and they claimed that they have come out of this problem of anemia. So this is, and you are also, homestead plantation also you people are promoting. So once you provide this, automatically the yield levels also will go up, the income levels will go up. And this is a direct bearing on the anemia. See, please think anemia is not a problem of poverty alone, especially for girls. Even well-to-do families, girls will have anemia problem. And it's a recurring problem. It's not a one-time problem. So unless you have a lifestyle change by eating drumstick, muringa leaves, etc., you will not be having a permanent solution. If you are really interested, what I would suggest is, don't try to do it in your entire area of operation. Try to adopt a village in a block or a mandal or a firqa so that your monitoring will become very easy. And I suggested in that video 4 columns, but based on feedback from the field, I would suggest 1 or 2 because the workers, they are finding it difficult to put hold the 4 PVC pipes when they are planting it. So you can, when you are doing it 1 or 2, you can increase the dia of the PVC pipe so that more sand is there and more water can go in. You can send me mail at ksatyagopalias@gmail.com. If you are sending, say Dan Foundation interested in CRA technique or Satyagopal method, and I will read even if the response is a bit delayed, it will not be denied because I have other works also to do and I will do it. But the quick result will be either talk to Vasi or then Venkatesan. So Venkatesan will keep on bugging me, sir, one small thing, sir. You don't mind, sir, I'm sorry to disturb you, but still he will ensure that whatever he wants, he will get it done. That's the spirit. You should never give up. Next. I am leaving the link also before you go to the next slide. Vasi, in the morning, I think someone talked about tanks. I don't know his name. It's not Mohan. He was saying that en eri, நீங்க தான் en eri en urimam. அப்படிதானே சொன்னீங்க? En kanmai, என்னுடைய பொறுப்பு. I am making a small suggestion. En eri en uyir. It is my life. If you translate that, no one is willing to give up his life. I wish all of you all the success. But before I forget, first of all, let me thank Vasi and Venkatesan for giving me this opportunity. And it's the greatest honor to speak to all of you on Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. And let me conclude by just quoting what the great Mahatma has said. Next. The future depends on what you do today. That today is not today alone. In the next few years, what you do is what is going to determine whether we are going to conserve the environment and in the process achieve the SDG goals or not. With this, I conclude. If you have any things, I will. Vasi, in between you went out, I was suggesting a concept called yearlings instead of fingerlings. So, you were there? Okay, right. Okay, Naganadi River, you are not there. See, in Vellore, what they have done is Art of Living Foundation is there, and District Administration, Rural Development Demand, they collaborated. Entire river stretch, they put a series of boulder dam and then a ring well with a recharging facility. Now it is doing wonderful thing. So similar things also. It's a cross learning, just what I thought I'll share. If you people have any questions?
Yes, sir. I have few questions. 5 questions. Yeah. So one is like in your like method for tree plantation and irrigation, was using sand. Can we go for gravel and sand?
Sand you can try. You see, ideally sand is the best because of its properties. Sand I have not tried. You can try it.
Gravel.
In addition to that, you can try what is that? Even dried cow dung, you can powder it and then you can try it. You can also try rice husk. But when you are doing any of these things, you should put lot of trichoderma and Pseudomonas fluorescens. Because when you are putting even husk also, this husk as well as coir pith, when you try to do it, fungal attacks can be there. So therefore, you need to treat it adequately with trichoderma and Pseudomonas fluorescens. Okay. Try with sand. It will still succeed. And there is one gel which has been brought by some of the scientists from Pusa. It's called Pusa gel. Try it. But for me, I love sand because of its inherent properties of pulling down the water and then releasing it later.
Is there any like BCC tools for crop specific?
Which one?
Like behavioral change communication tool which can be used for farmers for specific crops?
No, ecological engineering.
Yeah.
Yes, ecological engineering, you have asked the right question. For different crops, you have to put different types of flowers. So that is a separate lecture by itself. But for paddy, you can go for sunflower, even this lady's finger, and then chrysanthemum or this, what is that? Red color. Besides chrysanthemum, the other flower is rose color. இது கொஞ்சம் orange, deep orangeல இருக்கும். What is that? Marigold. Marigold. Any flowering plant which will be used. And then gingerly. Even castor can be put. In fact, our farmers before Green Revolution, they were invariably using castor along the field. But it was used as a trap crop. There's a difference between trap crop. Trap crop is basically to attract the dominant pest, Helicoverpa, and then kill it. Here, you are attracting the pollinators and the parasitoids.
So the third is like you are a researcher as well as you are in the policy side. So what is stopping you to bring all this towards the farmers in a great scale?
Yeah, you see, I am a policy maker, but you see, each of us, we are not posted in all the departments. We are there in some departments. So long as I was Director General of NIPHM, we have introduced so many schemes. In fact, I am very happy to say that I had the opportunity, God's given opportunity, to introduce this ecological engineering as part of the curriculum. And we educated all the scientists of ICR, faculty from SAUs, and extension functionaries from state as well as center. And then we introduced a scheme called IPM villages in Tamil Nadu. Then Vice Chairman Shanta Sheila Nair Madam, she was very much fascinated, and then she funded it, and even today that IPM program is going on. But probably if the Agriculture Secretary is having the same conviction as I am having, the drive will be different. See, each officer has his own pluses and minuses. Idiosyncrasies will be there, strengths will be there. Fortunate or unfortunate, I was never Agriculture Secretary.
So next is like
but still, why I am talking here I should tell you, and why I talk to the agriculture exchange functionaries at the individual level also should tell you. See, policy making is not confined only to the government. NGOs, even an individual, forget about what rest of the world is doing. You want to do something, you do it. And that can, if it is successful, entire world will look at you. This is what I told you, the Kanto city example. It started in one place. Then it has become a national policy of Vietnam. And I repeatedly talk to NGOs because you have a strength which will overcome the weakness of government employees. See, in government, we do not know when we get transferred. Whereas you people are there in the same place, you can handhold the farmers, you are having close association with the farmers, you treat them as partners. So then it becomes easy.
So the next question is like, based on our experience, the poor people are more eco-sustainable. They practice a lot of environmental sustainable practices, and in the process of development, they are slowly moving out of those environmental practices, and they are going into.
No, I don't see any conflict between environmental conservation and then development. It's our perception. See, it is a false notion that if you use chemical pesticides, you will get
Sir, I'm not going into it.
No, it's one example. See, chemical pesticides are not environmentally sustainable. Agreed? I'm not saying don't use pesticides. You are having biopesticides. There are some farmers who are using only biopesticides and they are making a living. And I will just give another small example. Then when I was DG NIPHM, I invited the then president of Organic Farmers of India, Sarvadaman Patil. I still remember his name. He was a postgraduate in agriculture, graduate from India and then postgraduate from US. Initially for 25 years he was using chemical pesticides. One day he read a book where it says the health of a plant depends upon the soil health. After that he stopped using chemical pesticides and subsequently he became president of the national level organization. And his reply is this: when I am moving from intensive practices to organic, first 2 years I may have a small dip. But from the third year onwards, my income levels are going up. In fact, the other day I read in from Bangalore, one young girl, much against the wishes of her parents, after having done her IT, engineering, etc., she shifted to organic cultivation and she is minting crores per annum. So they are not against each other, they are not antagonistic. It is our mistaken notion. Sir, nature, we are part of nature. We are a tiny speck in nature.
Sir, my question is totally different. So, like, I will share one example.
Please.
Yeah. So, most of our fishermen, the poor fishermen, they use like natural nets and other things for hunting the fish. But when they in the process of development, they are moving towards the nylon nets and other more unsustainable nets. So this pattern we can see in many other livelihood practices.
As the case of chemical pesticides.
So what is the incentive for the poor people who are using the sustainable eco-friendly practices?
Yes. See, government, when it tries to introduce certain new schemes, it is based on, again, certain studies and all, they will do it. As he has rightly said, so when you are dealing with nature, when you are doing an intervention in one place, you do not know the consequences elsewhere. But the moment they realize that that kind of a nylon net is not good, for example, then government will come out with a policy to give incentives to the fishermen to go back to the traditional or better advanced things which are environmental friendly. This continuously happens. It's a chess game. I will just give one example. A famous ecologist has said there is only one animal in this world which can be removed and nothing will happen to the ecosystem. And that animal is Homo sapiens. That is all of us. This I studied when I was doing my MSc. His name is Clark, that scientist's name. So it is but in our endeavor to develop, we look at shortcuts. We want quick results. We want quick yields. So in that process, if there is no environmental damage, we should move forward. But once we find that there is an environmental damage, you have to make a mid-course correction. Government does it. Government does it slowly. See, it may not be as fast as you may expect. That is where NGOs step in. Because you work with them, you will motivate them. For being a change agent, you need to associate yourself with them. Mahatma Gandhi has not become mass leader just like that. He has identified himself with the masses. When he was in US and London, in Africa and London, he was wearing, like any other barrister, he was having his full coats and all. He's not from a poor family. But in order to address the common man's problem, he wanted to live his life like a common man. Then he became a accepted figure for them, for the entire country. So it is difficult. And it's a rat race. All of us are in a rat race. Let us also not forget that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, right. Any other question? Vivekanandan, yes.
Okay, yeah. So, 30 வருடங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி he was the additional director of that
Additional Collector Development, DRDA.
Additional collector and was introduced me to Dr. Satyagopal. அப்போ வந்து நாங்கள் வந்து ஒரு பார் பாயிலிங் யூனிட் வந்து நியர் மதுரை டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் அப்போ வந்து ஒரு இது கொடுத்தோம். இட்ஸ் ஜஸ்ட் ஒரு இதாக இருக்குது சார், பீப்புள்ஸ் தேர் நீட் ஆஃப் இட் இம்மீடியட்லி தேர் சாங்ஷன். ஸ்டில் ஐ எம் சீயிங் தட் சேம் ஸ்பிரிட் ஹீஸ் கீப்பிங். இப்போ as an NGO we are also part of this DAN network and also we closely work with DAN Foundation. We document local innovations with the Professor Anil Gupta. I think you might be knowing that. Okay. He also again introduced Professor Anil Gupta also. So that based on your the presentation, that 2 points. One is intercrop, how it reduces the pest incidents. So that is very, very important, very low cost and good. The cultural engineering, it is one of the best. And also your one, there's no CRP.
CRA technique.
CRP technique, no?
CRA. Commissioner Revenue Administration.
CRA technique. Okay, yeah. So of course it seems to be very simple, but I think it will be very effective. So one incident actually, in sugarcane you told that the wider spacing.
SSI.
Yeah. So in wider spacing with a farmer is cultivating this dencha. And son that the Sanape and the near Pulingood on farmer Andoni Sami, he's giving a wider spacing the sugarcane. On the wood on the Pasandal pair that this green manure, dencha. He's cultivating and he's getting a stem borer control.
Absolutely.
அதே சமயத்தில் நல்ல ஒரு இன்ஷூட் கம்போஸ்டிங் கிடைக்கிது, நல்ல நைட்ரஜன் ஃபீல். ஸோ மெனி திங்ஸ் ஐ திங்க் டெஃபினெட்லி வி வில் அப்சர்வ் அண்ட் எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட். ஈவன் தட் இட்ஸ் வெரி சிம்பிள், but once we started practice, we will get lot of ideas and farmers also will contribute.
It will be low cost and more income. Cost of production will be less and income will be more. I am not talking about even the organic product cost. Even you will get better yields over a period of time. See, just like social distancing because of COVID, when you are increasing the spacing between the plants, spread of disease also will be reduced.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My good evening to our Pidamahan of Thane district. Yes.
Then is my child. I agree.
Everybody in Thane district, even today,
Yes.
remembers Dr.
Yes.
Satyagopal.
Yes.
This day is very good day because Satyagopal is very known to Thane district. In Thane district, in the banks of Mullai Periyar, some big shots purchase 1 or 2 cents of lands just adjoining to that bank and secure electricity connection, and thereafter pump water like anything, take the water through the pipelines to a distance of nearly some even up to some 50 to 60 or 70 kilometers, and then sell the water to of course for agriculture purposes. Whether this particular act is genuine or not, that is something different.
Not genuine.
Not genuine. Whether the, this
No one is having a right to do that unless he has been permitted to do it.
National Green Tribunal will take
You file a case. Yes. You file a case, we will take it up. We'll see. We'll examine it. File a case. It doesn't cost you much. You can do it. And let me tell you, I'll just strengthen his point. During 2017, Madurai city was on the brink of a massive disaster. Water was not available, hand-to-mouth existence. So that time, see, we were releasing water from Periyar. We were releasing about 200 cusecs, and 160 cusecs is supposed to be realized at Vaigai, which will be sent to Madurai district. But though we were releasing 200 cusecs, we were getting only about some 40 to 60. Then Collector Veera Ravara, he was telling, sir, water is not coming. Then I talked to Venkatesana, what's his name? Venkatachalam.
Yes, Venkatachalam.
Because of you, I am forgetting Venkatachalam. Venkatachalam. So Venkatachalam said, sir, we are releasing water. Then we analyzed. This is the problem. Many farmers, they have put bore pump sets and pumping. So we removed all of them. And mind you, the moment we removed them, they got 180 cusecs to Vaigai Dam, and we could provide water to Madurai city. We managed it that time. So you have a very valid point, and no one has a right unless he has been authorized to draw water from a water body or from groundwater. Even farmer.
Yes.
Even farmer. And IAS I have got it, several such pump sets to be removed. I have to ask the collectors to get it removed.
I think a public interest litigation was filed before the Madurai bench of Madras High Court.
You cannot have multiple places to file. Let it take its own course there.
I think that petitioner has withdrawn that petition under the apprehension that he will be having some dire consequences. In that case,
Anyway, I can only simply say this. There cannot be parallel proceedings, number one.
yes,
Number two, anyone who is aggrieved that the nature is being damaged,
yes,
he has a right to make an application before NGT.
yes,
Based on the application, the points mentioned in that original application, NGT, the bench, myself and the other judicial member, we will sit together and examine. If it is fit as per the rules of NGT and the acts which we are supposed to supervise, we will take it up.
very kind of you.
Thank you.
Much obliged.
Thank you. Yes.
Sir, my question is regarding to organic farming. Sir, myself Niranjan, I am PDM 21 student. I am from Madhya Pradesh.
Oh, very good.
And I am horticulture graduate, sir.
Excellent.
Sir, my question is, if we are doing organic farming, so first you tell this is sustainable, but who will purchase our organic product in field level? Because no MSP like system in organic. And the criteria for taking the organic certificates, it's minimum 3 year also. And the criteria also very tough, sir. Nearby all the farmers have to cultivate organic, then only they will provide certificate. So what is the government side policy can be, who can easily take these organic products, sir? So this is my question, sir.
Okay. You have a very good question. But today in our country, there are many takers for organic products. In fact, they pay very high price to buy these products. Government also has set up a mechanism by which your certification and then hand-holding them to market their produce is taking place. Probably you being a youngster, you may not be aware of what is being done by Madhya Pradesh government. What I would suggest is once you finish your curriculum and go back, try to get in touch with the horticulture department. Definitely they will guide you.
Yes.
Definitely they will guide you. Okay?
Yes.
Right. Anyone else? That girl she wanted to ask.
We told about that organic farming that is reduced
You just introduce yourself.
sorry ma'am. My name is Soma Bhuya. I am student of the Dhahan Academy, and my question is that we all time told that organic farming, but can we do that 100% organic farming? As we know that if we make some gold jewelry, then we have to mix some mixing. Nor nothing is 100%. If it is 100%, then it will be lethal. So can we do that?
Okay, see, first thing you should understand is, in my lecture I never said organic farming. Okay, I said reduce the chemical pesticide usage.
Yes.
See, what we have to do is, we have to go for safe and judicious use of pesticides. See, when you are going for organic farming, there is a small risk. I didn't want the small and marginal farmers to be exposed to that risk. That's why in my lecture I said, don't use chemical pesticides when it is not required. See, you have to use other strategies to reduce the need for chemical pesticides. 3 reduction, 3 gains. What did I say? Reduce the usage of chemical pesticides. In fact, even when you are using those chemical pesticides, you can still be qualified under organic based on the dosage and the time of spray. These are all a completely different lecture altogether. But I understand and appreciate your concern. Farmer cannot be put to risk by advocating organic farming. Am I right? That is a concern. See, as far as the government is concerned, government is not saying don't go for intensive cultivation. It is also promoting organic cultivation. It will take time. See, we only spoil the agriculture system. We meaning government. All of us. Government, NGOs, scientists, everyone. But that time there was a reason. Now we know the consequences. I told about grasshopper effect. Below equator sprays going to the pole.
Yes, sir.
But when you adopt the strategies which I am suggesting, invariably 99% you will not be needing the need for chemical pesticides. It is just like steroids. Steroids are there in all medical shops, pharmacies. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Will the doctor prescribe steroid just like that? When everything is done, the patient is not responding. As a last resort, he will use a steroid. Chemical pesticide is like steroid. And there are so many options before that. Neem, who has discovered neem as a pesticide? Indian farmers have done. One scientist from US, he wanted a patent for it. Government of India had to fight and then get the patent withdrawn. We are not using neem. Neither neem oil nor neem seed kernel extract. We are not using neem cake. All these things we should try to use. Then, sometimes nature is very peculiar. If there is some imbalance, then suddenly there is a resurgence of a particular pest. All your strategies have been affected. Then you have to go for chemical pesticide because farmer has to live.
Yes, sir.
And once again I talked about the importance of light traps. If you put light traps, everything will come and fall in the trap.
Okay, sir.
Yes, I'm happy that girls are now asking questions. One more question. Last but one question. Because girls now started opening up now. Let us just try to see if there are more questions from them.
My name is Mohini Nisa. I am from Jharkhand. Now I am studying in TDA PDM 22 batch. My question is about integrated pest management. How we teach the farmers about IPM in ETA level, because they didn't know the levels of IPM in the general equilibrium position. The pests are regulated by abiotic and biotic factor. At that level, farmers also used to spray pesticides.
Very good question. See, as part of the farmer field school or farm school or ISA-based IPM, they will organize an insect zoo for the farmers. What they do is, when the agriculture extension officers, when they come, they go to the field and they will collect whatever insect that is there. And then they will bring it back and then put it in separate bottles. And then suddenly the farmer will be realizing the ladybird beetles will be feeding on certain pests. There is a redweed bug which is feeding on some caterpillar. Suddenly they find some eggs have become almost stony. So through this insect zoo, farmers are told that not all insects are pests. And spiders, they are voracious feeders, all of us know. Because spider web, as a child also we would have noticed that flies and others which go in the spider web will get caught in it. Okay? Right. Insect zoo is the concept which will be taught to the farmers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One last question. Front benchers are very silent. So let me see if there is any question from the boys or the girls in the front bench, not for the back benches. No? No questions? Okay, we'll open up. Anyone else? Last question we'll have, otherwise we'll wind up. Yes. உக்காருங்க நீங்க உட்கார்ந்து பேசுங்க.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Nagveer Prakash, Regional Coordinator, Madurai Urban Region. My question is, Sikkim has declared itself as one of the only organic cultivation state in India. Is there any policy level precision that the government of India is shifting itself to organic farming, or how it is going to take forward the agriculture sector?
Very good question. See, this is actually a policy to be taken at the state level. So next to Sikkim, Kerala is trying to do. In fact, they have enunciated that policy, but they have not yet become fully organic. They are in the process of becoming organic. In fact, NIPHM, we were assisting them, we were training all their functionaries. Rest of the states, they are still going on safe and judicious use. The stated policy of Government of India, as well as most of the states, is safe and judicious use of pesticides, not even chemical pesticides, safe and judicious use of pesticides. But there is a lot of gap in the field because of failure of all of us, where farmer today, he doesn't even go to the agriculture functionary or the scientist. Where does he go? He goes to the pesticide dealer and then takes whatever he recommends, and then he will apply in the field. So there the role of NGO comes in. See, government always has a limitation because the officers, they will always be pressurized with so many works and they will be keeping on getting transferred. You have a continued presence in a particular place. You have a close association with the farmers. You can see their difficulties when they are trying to bring a change in their practices, and over a period of time it is possible. I am very hopeful that in no time we will be moving towards more and more people going into organic cultivation. And what is very heartening is many IT professionals, they are coming back from various countries and they are switching over to organic cultivation. Okay.